Hi, I'm Aspen. I used to think family meant something, especially when it came to my Aunt Marissa. She was always the fun aunt at family gatherings, the one with the loud laugh and endless stories about her glamorous life in real estate. That changed last summer when she called me, voice dripping with desperation. Aspen, sweetie, I have the most massive favor to ask, Aunt Marissa said, her words coming fast. I have this huge showing tomorrow, $1 million property, and my regular sitter canceled. How many kids are we talking about? I asked, twirling the phone cord. I had babysitting experience, but usually with one or two children. Just the twins, Ryan and Riley. They're angels, I promise. 4 hours tops, and I'll pay you double the going rate. Her voice went up an octave, the way it did when she wasn't being entirely truthful. My cousin Zoe had warned me once over coffee. Mom always minimizes. If she says 4 hours, plan for 8. I don't know, Aunt Marissa. I have an exam to study for. Please, Aspen. You're so good with kids. They adore you. I wouldn't ask if I wasn't desperate. I sighed. Fine. What time tomorrow? You're a lifesaver. 9 a.m. I'll text you the address. The next morning, I arrived at a sprawling suburban house I'd never seen before. Aunt Marissa opened the door, immaculately dressed in her realtor outfit, not a hair out of place. There you are. Come in, come in. She practically dragged me inside. Slight change of plans. The twins' playdate is here too, and my friend Veronica dropped off her triplets for a few hours. I froze in the entryway. Wait, what? That's 7 little ones, all under 5. She beamed as if announcing I'd won a prize. But they're all fed and everything's set up in the playroom. Emergency numbers on the fridge, snacks labeled in the pantry. Aunt Marissa, I can't watch 7 toddlers by myself. That's not what we agreed to. She checked her diamond-encrusted watch. Oh, I'm running late. We'll discuss payment when I get back. You're a natural with kids. Before I could protest further, she was out the door, leaving me standing in a house I didn't recognize with 7 children I barely knew. Who are you? Asked a small boy, tugging on my jeans. 6 other little faces appeared from around corners and doorways, staring at me with curious expressions. 8 hours later, my phone showed 6 missed calls to Aunt Marissa. None returned. The house looked like a tornado had hit it. 2 children were crying, 1 had a fever, 3 were fighting over a toy, and 1 had smeared peanut butter in my hair. When my phone finally rang, I lunged for it. Hey, listen, Aunt Marissa said casually. Showing went amazing, but now we're doing dinner with the clients. Can you hang tight until 9? 9? That's 12 hours. You said 4. I haven't eaten, I'm exhausted, and you're a doll. I'll make it up to you, promise. The line went dead. My vision started swimming, black spots appearing at the edges. The last thing I remember was a small voice saying, Miss Aspen, why are you lying on the floor? When I opened my eyes, my best friend Danny was kneeling beside me, and EMTs were checking my vitals. What happened? I mumbled. Your aunt finally answered her phone, Danny said, her voice tight with anger. I came to check on you when you missed our study session. Found you passed out on the floor with 7 toddlers running wild. You were severely dehydrated and exhausted. Where's Aunt Marissa? Danny's expression darkened. Still at her dinner. Said she'd be here as soon as possible. She left me here, I whispered, the betrayal sinking in. Yeah, Danny nodded grimly. And from what these kids are saying, this isn't the first time she's pulled this stunt, but it's definitely going to be the last. You know what the worst part is? I said to Danny 3 days later as we sat in my apartment. My hands still shook slightly when I lifted my coffee mug. She only paid me for 4 hours, called the rest family helping family. That's garbage, Danny replied, her dark eyes flashing. You ended up in the hospital. Just for monitoring, I muttered, because you fainted from exhaustion after being abandoned with 7 children under 5 for 12 hours. My phone buzzed with a text from my cousin Zoe. Can we meet? Need to talk about what happened. 30 minutes later, Zoe slid into the booth across from me at the campus cafe, looking uncomfortable. Mom says you're exaggerating what happened, she began hesitantly. That you're trying to damage her reputation? I stared at her. Exaggerating? I collapsed. There are medical records, Zoe. I know, it's just. She twisted her napkin. This isn't the first time she's done something like this. Remember my cousin Marcus from Dad's side? Vaguely. Why? Mom convinced him to watch the twins once during his finals week. Ended up being 5 kids for 14 hours. He failed 2 exams. My jaw dropped. Are you serious? Why doesn't anyone confront her? Family politics, Zoe sighed. Everyone's afraid of making waves. The cafe door jingled, and our cousin Tyler walked in, spotting us immediately. I heard what happened, he said, pulling up a chair. Aunt Marissa tried the same thing with me last Christmas. You too? I leaned forward. Yeah, except I refused when I saw how many kids there were. She went ballistic, said I was letting the family down. Tyler's voice was bitter. Been getting the cold shoulder at family events ever since. That's ridiculous, I exclaimed. What's ridiculous? Came a stern voice. Is you 3 gossiping about your aunt who does so much for this family? We looked up to see Uncle Pete, Marissa's brother, glowering down at us. Uncle Pete, I began. You don't understand what... I understand plenty, he interrupted. Marissa is under tremendous pressure with her career and single-handedly raising those twins. So she asked for a little help. Big deal. A little help? Tyler's voice rose. She left Aspen with 7 toddlers for 12 hours. Aspen ended up in the hospital. She exaggerates, Uncle Pete waved dismissively. Marissa said she probably just wanted attention. I felt my face burn. You think I faked fainting? The EMTs? The hospital admission? All I know is that family helps family, Uncle Pete said firmly. And Marissa says you're trying to blackmail her for more money. Zoe stood up suddenly. That's a lie, Dad, and you know it. Mom's been doing this for years, dumping childcare on relatives with false promises and guilt trips. And you enable her? Uncle Pete's face reddened. How dare you speak about your mother that way? How dare she endanger children by leaving them with inadequate supervision? I countered. This isn't just about me, Uncle Pete. What if something had happened to those kids? His expression faltered slightly before hardening again. You all need to grow up and stop attacking Marissa. He stormed out. Well, that went well, Tyler sighed. Zoe looked at me apologetically. I'm sorry, Aspen, but I think I know some others who've experienced the same thing with Mom. Want me to set up a meeting? I nodded slowly, determination building. Yes, and I have a plan, but I'll need everyone's help. I'm in, Tyler said immediately. Me too, Zoe added. It's time someone finally stood up to her. The family reunion at Grandma Ellis's sprawling backyard provided the perfect opportunity. Aunt Marissa was holding court by the punch bowl, regaling relatives with tales of her latest big sale. Aspen, she called when she spotted me. Come give your favorite aunt a hug. No hard feelings about our little misunderstanding, right? I approached with a practiced smile. Actually, Aunt Marissa, I wanted to talk to you about that. Water under the bridge, she laughed too loudly. These things happen in families. Do they? Because I've been talking to other family members, and it seems like these things happen a lot with you specifically. Her smile faltered. What's that supposed to mean? It means we need to talk. Privately. I gestured toward Grandma's gazebo. Reluctantly, she followed me. Inside the gazebo, she found not just me, but also Zoe, Tyler, Marcus, and 2 other cousins who'd had similar experiences. What is this? Aunt Marissa demanded, her voice rising. Some kind of ambush? We prefer to call it an intervention, Marcus said calmly. About your habit of manipulating family members into providing free childcare under false pretenses, Tyler added. Aunt Marissa's face cycled through shock, indignation, and calculation. This is ridiculous. I occasionally ask for help with my children like any mother might. Stop. Zoe's voice was firm. Mom, you told Aspen she'd be watching 2 kids for 4 hours. It was 7 kids for 12 hours. She ended up hospitalized. A complete exaggeration, Marissa protested, turning to me. You were tired, maybe a little dehydrated. I have the medical records, I interrupted, and statements from the EMTs about the condition of the house and children when they arrived. You're threatening me? Your own aunt? Her voice took on a wounded tone. After everything I've done for you? What exactly have you done for me, Aunt Marissa? I asked quietly. She sputtered. I've always been there for you, given you advice, included you in family functions. Let's be honest, I said. You've used me, just like you've used everyone in this gazebo. The difference is, this time there are consequences. What consequences? Her eyes narrowed. You all need to stop being so dramatic. Marcus stepped forward. Child endangerment for starters. 7 toddlers left with a single overwhelmed caretaker who you misled about the situation. That's absurd. They were perfectly safe. Were they? Zoe challenged. When Danny arrived, 2 of them were playing, with kitchen knives they'd pulled from an unlocked drawer. The color drained from Aunt Marissa's face. Here's what's going to happen, I said evenly. You're going to stop this pattern of behavior. No more dumping children on unsuspecting relatives. No more lies about how many kids or how long. And if I don't agree to your ridiculous demands, she sneered, recovering some of her bravado. Then we go public, Tyler said. To the family first, then to the authorities if necessary. You wouldn't dare, she hissed. We're family. Exactly, I replied. Family doesn't exploit family. Family doesn't endanger children for convenience. This is slander. I'll sue all of you. Aunt Marissa's voice rose hysterically. Go ahead, Marcus said, pulling out his phone. I recorded everything from the moment you walked in here, including your admission that you left 7 children with Aspen after telling her it would only be 2. Aunt Marissa lunged for the phone. Give me that! You can't record me without permission! As she grabbed for Marcus's phone, she shoved me hard against the gazebo railing. I stumbled backward, nearly falling. Did everyone see that? Zoe asked loudly. Mom just assaulted Aspen. Aunt Marissa froze, suddenly aware that the commotion had drawn attention. Several relatives, including Grandma Ellis, were now watching from outside the gazebo. You're all conspiring against me, Aunt Marissa said, voice trembling with rage. I swear you'll regret this. Every one of you. She stormed out, shoving past curious onlookers. Did you get that threat on recording too? I asked Marcus quietly. He nodded, a grim smile on his face. Every word. Would you please state your name for the record? Asked the stern-faced woman at the hearing. Aspen Ellis, I replied, trying to keep my voice steady. 3 weeks had passed since the confrontation at the family reunion. What happened next was a blur of police reports, family services investigations, and now, this hearing. And you were the primary caregiver for 7 children under the age of 5 on June 15th of this year? Yes, under false pretenses. I was told I would be watching 2 children for 4 hours. Instead, I was left with 7 children for 12 hours, resulting in my hospitalization for exhaustion and dehydration. From the corner of my eye, I could see Aunt Marissa fidgeting beside her lawyer. She'd been uncharacteristically quiet throughout the proceedings. When my testimony concluded, Danny took the stand next. I found my friend unconscious on the floor, she explained. The children were unsupervised. 2 had found kitchen knives, 1 was attempting to climb the bookshelf, and another had apparently been trying to operate the stove. Testimony after testimony followed. The EMTs, the emergency room doctor, and finally the other family members who'd experienced similar situations with Aunt Marissa. During a recess, Aunt Marissa cornered me in the hallway. Aspen, please, she whispered, her perfectly maintained facade cracking. You have to drop this. I'll lose my real estate license if this goes on my record. I'll lose everything. You should have thought of that before you left 7 toddlers with inadequate supervision, I replied calmly. I'm sorry, okay? Is that what you want to hear? I'm sorry. I was desperate that day. The showing was huge. This isn't about one day, Aunt Marissa. This is about a pattern of behavior that put children at risk, multiple times. People make mistakes, she pleaded, grabbing my arm. We're family. Family forgives. I pulled my arm away. Family also takes responsibility. When the hearing resumed, the judge announced her decision. Aunt Marissa would be required to complete 200 hours of community service, attend parenting classes, and undergo a psychological evaluation. Most importantly, she would have supervised visitation with her twins for 6 months. This court takes child endangerment very seriously, the judge concluded. The pattern of behavior demonstrated here shows a troubling disregard for child safety. Outside the courthouse, our extended family gathered in small clusters, the tension palpable. "Was this really necessary?" Uncle Pete demanded, approaching me. "Do you realize what you've done to your aunt's reputation? Her career?" "Pete," Grandma Ellis interrupted, her voice firm despite her 80 years. "Enough. Marissa endangered those children, all of our children and grandchildren. Aspen did the right thing. But the family," he began. "Is safer now," Grandma finished. "Sometimes love means holding people accountable." 2 months later, Zoe and I met for coffee at our regular spot. "How's your mom doing with the parenting classes?" I asked. "Surprisingly well, actually," Zoe admitted. "She's still mad, of course, but the therapist says she's making progress in recognizing her narcissistic tendencies." "And the twins? Happier? More stable? The new childcare arrangement is working out great." I nodded, feeling a weight lift that I hadn't realized I'd been carrying. I was worried I'd destroyed the family. "Are you kidding?" Zoe smiled. "Grandma Ellis says you saved it. Most of the family agrees. Except your dad. He'll come around. Mom manipulated him for years, too." As we finished our coffee, I reflected on everything that had happened. The betrayal still stung, but the outcome? Safer children, boundaries established, accountability enforced. Felt right. "You know," Zoe said thoughtfully, "I've been thinking about what Grandma said, about how love sometimes means holding people accountable. What about it? Do you think that's something people understand? That sometimes the most loving thing isn't forgiveness or reconciliation, but making sure harmful patterns stop?" I considered her question carefully. "I don't know, but maybe that's a conversation worth having. What do you think? Have you ever had to hold someone you care about accountable for harmful behavior? Was it worth the fallout? Share your thoughts in the comments below.